Now, we're going to welcome back Catherine Hadler to the stage because we now have a session entitled Earth Space Synergies, and that is, of course, such a running theme for the whole episode here. We will have 3 talks, and after that we will have a short 10-minute question session. So, of course, as always, you can put your questions online, and don't forget, in the middle of the room here we have a microphone, so if you are really desperate to ask a question for any of the speakers about to come to the stage, please just line up across in the center of the room here at that microphone, or put the questions online. Thank you. Please welcome Catherine to the stage.
Thank you very much. So welcome to the Earth Space Synergies session. We have 3 15-minute talks, followed by about 10 minutes, provided everybody sticks to time. We will have some time for questions, which I would very much like. So we will be trying to stick to time to allow questions from the audience. Following that, we've got then 4 5-minute talks, and the same thing, we will have time for questions. So for the speakers, I would don't run away too far after your speech, because you will be invited back onto the stage at the end. Our first speaker in this session is the excellent Advenit Makaya from ESA, and he will be talking about space-based solar power. Advenit.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here. And this morning, Clive Neal made a very good remark, stressing the fact that what we do here should be for the benefit of Earth, to do things better on Earth. And I think, hopefully, my talk will illustrate that in a certain way. So the work that I'm going to introduce was done in particular by Beth Lomax and Adam McSweeney. I'm just a messenger here, but it's part of a team which put together the Solaris program, which I will introduce. So the background, we currently have severe energy issue, both from a climate crisis point of view, and I would say, unfortunately, more recently, put at the forefront of the news from an energy security point of view. To address the climate issue, the International Energy Agency formulated a number of scenarios to meet the net zero by 2050 goal. And those scenarios, as you can see here, comprise a set of different energy sources, renewable energy sources. And as you can see, most of it is occupied by solar, photovoltaic, and wind, hydro as well. But a small share of it is composed of what we call baseload energy sources. So even if we had to extend solar, photovoltaic, and wind to the maximum, there would still need to be a share of continuous energy supplies and not intermittent like solar PV and wind to ensure the stability and the flexibility of electricity supply. Currently, that gap is proposed to be filled by nuclear, fossil fuel with carbon capture, for example. So what we asked ourselves is how what we do can help plug this energy gap in terms of meeting the net zero by 2050 goals. And a concept that has been around since the end of the 60s, space-based solar power, in our opinion, can be a good alternative, at least a very worthy alternative to investigate to fill this gap. Space-based solar power, I'll explain the principle in the following slides, but it has the potential to provide uninterrupted, scalable, and clean energy, and the potential to provide it anywhere you want in the world, provided you have a number of satellites who can address different locations. And it is a baseload energy, so often people compare space-based solar power with terrestrial solar power, but these are not the same thing. Terrestrial solar power is what we call an intermittent energy source, where you need battery in order to store the energy which is generated to be able to use it when the sun is not shining. So space-based solar power provides energy 24/7, so it has to be compared, if you have to compare it, with nuclear or fossil fuel with carbon capture, and not with solar PV or, terrestrial PV or wind. So how does it work? I guess some of you are familiar with the topic. For people who are not, you collect solar energy directly in space. In a geostationary orbit, you have almost constant illumination of your photovoltaic panels, and you convert this energy into electricity and transfer it back to the ground. There are various concepts. This one looks at using transmission through, for example, laser or microwaves. Other concepts use very large reflectors. So to realize that, and we'll see the scale of such systems later on, you have a number of challenges. Technological to start with, but also political, public acceptance, economic, social, environmental, etc. These are all a set of very, I would say, engaging and significant challenges, but no showstopper compared to other energy sources which have been proposed. There's no physical, fundamental feasibility issue here. It's just a set of very difficult engineering challenges, which is what we like. Given the fact that it is essentially a set of engineering challenges, what we have done at ESA is to propose a preparatory program called Solaris, and you will have the website of Solaris in the next slide, which consists of de-risking the key technologies and progressing the key technologies to sufficient maturity by 2025 to be able to make a decision for a larger program towards demonstration in the 2030 timeframe. So Solaris has different elements. We have system studies. We have technology activities for the major key technological challenges, such as increasing the efficiency of photovoltaic systems, of radio frequency generation, manufacturing and maintaining very large structures in space, etc. And we will also look at different research questions, such as the environmental health and safety aspects. We, outside of Solaris and before Solaris, we have also started a set of relatively small technology activities. One of them will be presented this afternoon by Astrostrom to, again, provide some seed funding to start de-risking the key technologies. But if we look beyond Solaris, and that brings us to the topic of this conference on space resources, taking two examples of possible architecture for solar power satellites. This one is the Cassiopeia architecture designed by Ian Cash in the UK. So you see the scale is about 2,000 metric tons for wireless power transmission at 2.5 gigahertz. And if you talk about size, the biggest asset that has been built and deployed by humans in space is the International Space Station, which is about 110 meters across. The Cassiopeia architecture is significantly larger than that, bigger than what we have ever done. This is the SPS Alpha architecture proposed by John Mankins in the US, and you see also the scale, about 7,000 metric tons of mirrors oriented so that they have constant illumination depending on the orientation of the satellite. So why do I talk about scale? We'll come to that later. Looking at first how we would deploy such an architecture in geostationary orbit. So that's the orbit, the target orbit for space-based solar power, to be able to have constant illumination and provide energy more or less 24/7. You would launch from Earth. You can use a space tug to carry the hardware to the geo destination. You can have a rendezvous in low Earth orbit, delivery to geo, in-orbit assembly of the structure, and return of the tug to LEO to pick up the next species, etc. With, of course, necessary in-orbit refilling of the tug. So given the scale that we have seen, we can have a look at the market potential. We are not talking about one space-based solar power station. One station has an output of about 2 gigawatts, which is more or less the power output of one nuclear power station. Of course, we don't have only one nuclear power station in Europe. We have a number of them, about 100 for 100 stations would cover the nuclear output that's currently used in Europe. So we are talking about a large number of stations which can significantly enable and accelerate multiple industries, reusable launchers, on-orbit manufacturing and assembly, and space resources utilization. If you look at the distance between the Moon and the Earth, in distance, the low Earth orbit and the geostationary orbit where we plan to have these stations is much closer to Earth. But in delta V, which is a very good measure of the effort that you need to bring the hardware to these orbits, it's much closer to the moon. So there's total sense in sourcing the material and the propellant on the lunar surface rather than on Earth. We have run, Beth and Adam have run small exercise in determining the market for such material and propellant. A disclaimer, this is by no means a thorough analysis of the market size. It's just, you can say, back of the envelope calculation. The message is that the market is huge and there is something there for space resources. So first of all, if we look at the type of propellant that we would need, looking at the specific impulse of electric propulsion propellants, they have the best specific impulse compared to chemical propellants, which means lower mass of propellant, but the amount of propellant that we would need by far exceeds the current capability of the market to produce electrical propulsion propellants such as xenon or krypton. So we will revert in our analysis to chemical propellants for the space tugs. So if we take the first scenario, liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen as a propellant for the space tug, we assume that the space tug is in geostationary transfer orbit because the delta V to the moon from which we source the propellant is smaller compared to the low Earth orbit. So we would have a tug sitting in geostationary orbit, picking up the hardware that's launched from Earth, bringing it to GEO and going back to GTO for refill. Looking at the specific impulse of liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, and the delta V, you have about 789,000 tons of propellant required to assemble the 100 stations that would fill in the gap for what the nuclear park is currently producing in Europe. George Sowers did an analysis of the business case for lunar ice mining in 2021, and he estimated the market size to break even the investment in lunar source propellant to about 210 tons. So there's plenty of room there to provide a business case or strengthen the business case for lunar source propellant if we engage into meaningful space-based solar power development. Now, if we look at another scenario where we sourced we launched the hardware from Earth using reusable heavy lift, Starship, for example, where Starship is refilled in low Earth orbit. And if we look at the propellant that Starship is using, LOX methane, then we have about 112 launches from Earth needed for each space-based solar power station, so 2,000 metric tons. From a cost competitive point of view, lunar source oxidizer would still be more expensive. On the other hand, there's expected to be a certain amount of regulatory pressure to limit the number of launches. 112 launches for one station, 100 stations. The regulatory authorities might take a little bit. So to address that, lunar source oxidizer would actually reduce the number of propellant launches because the oxidizers is the element that has the highest density in the propellant mix. So if we take that into account, lunar source oxidizers can be a strong mitigation for any potential, I would say, regulatory break towards launches to deploy significant hardware to space. If we look at another aspect of propellant use is station keeping, looking at the average amount of, the average delta V for station keeping for a typical satellite in GEO, and looking at liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen, or hydrogen peroxide as chemical propellant, we have about 10,000 and up to 38,000 tons of propellant required to maintain our space-based solar power stations in their orbit. There again, a massive market potential for lunar-sourced propellant for station keeping. Another aspect of making space-based solar power stations, and we have seen it this morning with David Carl's presentation, is the actual hardware. 2,000 metric tons if we look at the SPS Alpha station, and we try to break down in different components of this architecture. There are a number of materials that we can actually source from the moon or from asteroids or even from space debris, unused satellites, launcher upper stages, etc. Aluminum constitutes about 14% of the regolith, and aluminum is the main component of launcher upper stages, and launcher upper stages represent the majority of the space debris which are considered critical for potential collision risk. So a lot of sense here to think about how we could source the aluminum from those material sources. Same thing for silicon, about 28% of the content of the regolith, and there's plenty of use of silicon in a space-based solar power architecture. Of course, to do that, we need to have what we don't have at the moment, which is significant in situ materials refining capability. This is all pipe dreams if we are not able to separate the material we need from the space debris or from the regolith. We are starting to scratch the surface a little bit at ESA in relatively small technology development activities. You have here the campaign we did on the Discovery program, where we looked at, for example, manufacturing metallic elements from regolith after you extract the oxygen from it, etc. We have the in-situ resource utilization demonstration mission, which David Binns will talk about, which aims to demonstrate extraction of oxygen from the regolith on the lunar surface. So, as I said, we are scratching the surface, but much, much more is needed. So to conclude, generating solar power from space. First of all, it is a space resource utilization in itself, and as Clive said, it's a very clear demonstration of making life better on Earth with the resources we have in space. And not only that, but it also represents a major market potential for space resources utilization. Of course, if we engage into space-based solar power, the first stations will be built with terrestrial materials, but there is a strong incentive for sustainability to source the materials from the moon. I'll end up by recommending you to attend the lecture or the small talk by Astrostrom this afternoon to look at an example of architecture for space-based solar power with lunar materials. Thank you.
Great timekeeping as well. Let's move on. So we've got time for questions. Remember to keep the questions coming in. We've got some great ones that I'd like to ask. So we will endeavour to do that at the end of this batch of 3. The next speakers, there's 2 of them. There is Julian Schroth and Christian Walter. They're from ESA, and they will be talking about MOONLIGHT.
Did you ever ask yourself how you can improve your business with space technology or space data? My name is Julian Schroth, and today I want to talk with you about the lunar economy, or how opportunities in space can improve business and life on Earth. My presentation will contain 3 main topics. First of all, the new interest in going back to the moon and an ESA mission called MOONLIGHT. Secondly, about all the lunar applications and how Europe can profit from that. And thirdly, what ESA can do to support you as a business with innovative ideas. As you heard by now, especially here at the conference, there are many institutional and even commercial missions that plan to go to the moon. The NSR report states over 250 missions that are planned until 2040. And what all those missions have in common, they need communication. They need to know where they are. And that's why ESA is planning a mission called MOONLIGHT to provide this service. And this is one of the key infrastructure elements that you need to go to the moon. And therefore, ESA makes it easier for you to fly there, to communicate back to Earth, and take one of the complexities out of your mission plan. But besides that key technology, there are so many other things that are still needed to go to the moon, technology-wise, product-wise, service-wise. So the question we need to ask ourselves is how Europe, how our member states can profit from this new gold rush to the moon, if you want to say so. So many of the technologies that are needed to go to the moon are existing in their own right here on Earth. That's from food production to logistics to mining equipment. We have this knowledge right now, we're developing it, and we should keep doing so. Because if we're innovative in this way, if we're improving those businesses, we keep the talent, we keep the innovation, and we keep the good ideas inside. And at the moment we want to go to the moon, we have the supply chain ready. And you as a company can profit then from many applications, not only from businesses on Earth, from customers on Earth. You will also have another customer in space. So that's the vision, but how concretely we can help at ESA. If you're a business and if you want to improve your service that you actually provide at the moment with space technology or with space data, we can provide zero equity funding. So 50% is coming from ESA, the other 50% is coming from you to develop this technology. And we can provide you with the technical expertise for those technologies. And by that, we want to make you ready to not only improve your business right now on Earth, but also to be ready for a possible supply chain going to the moon. And therefore, I would like to invite you to sign up for our LinkedIn page, where we keep posting all the new calls, the calls for ideas, and also my colleague Christian will, in a second, propose a call. And so please take out your phone, sign up to our newsletter, and we keep you posted. And if you have questions, ask me. I will be here the next 2 days. Thank you very much. My name is Julian Schroth, and that's how I would like to improve business on Earth today.
Thank you, Julian. Hello? Does that work? It does. Oh, awesome, awesome. So, hello, entrepreneurs and innovators. As Julian mentioned, we are going back to the moon, this time to stay. And we would like you to be pioneers. I'm Christian Walter, working for ESA Space Solutions, and I invite you to follow me on a brief time travel into the future. It is the year 2060. Humanity has established a vibrant lunar presence with habitats and multiple research stations scattered across the moon's surface. Astronauts, scientists, and engineers are working hand in hand in this bustling hub of activity to unlock the secrets of the moon and pave the way for the further exploration of our solar system and beyond. Lunar habitats are now self-sustained with recent advances in technology enabling the production of food, water, and oxygen from local resources. Lunar mining operations have advanced with the extraction of valuable resources such as helium-3 or rare earth elements fueling the lunar economy. Also, lunar tourism has become a reality, with regular space flights shuttling passengers from the Earth to the Moon for stunning views of our home planet and amazing experiences of weightlessness. And lunar research facilities are at the forefront of scientific discovery, with experiments ranging from the testing of new spacecraft propulsion systems to the monitoring of behavior of organisms under microgravity conditions. In 2060, the Moon is no longer a distant and unattainable dream, but a vibrant and integral part of our society. Our presence on the Moon is a symbol of our collective potential and what we can achieve when we work together to push the boundaries of our capabilities. Coming back to the present, there is still a lot to do to achieve this vision. But as Julian mentioned, agencies and private organizations around the world are already working towards these goals, with hundreds of missions to the Moon planned in the next decade. They see business opportunities for innovative services and for becoming leaders at the forefront of human activity. One of ESA's contributions is MOONLIGHT, enabling communication and navigation on the Moon, which will also lower the entry barriers of new business ideas. Business opportunities such as the prospection, extraction of valuable resources, empowered by MOONLIGHT's positioning and navigation capabilities. Or the remote management of lunar power grids enabled thanks to MOONLIGHT's communication services. Or constructing smart habitation or infrastructure which communicates with each other on the lunar surface thanks to MOONLIGHT's connectivity. And many, many more business opportunities. Whether you work in the space sector or in any other industry on Earth that might have skills useful on the Moon, now is your opportunity to become a player of the lunar economy. How? Very soon, ESA will launch a competition seeking promising business ideas for new service concepts that benefit from lunar communication or navigation enabled by MOONLIGHT, and that address relevant customer and user needs in the lunar environment or down on Earth. The most promising ideas will be awarded ESA-funded contracts to further develop and assess their business cases. Finding feasible and viable business cases in the lunar economy certainly is not easy. Establishing a permanent lunar presence is like planting a flag on a new frontier. Just like the early explorers ventured into the unknown, facing danger and uncertainty to discover new lands. We too are pioneers venturing into the vast expanse of space. So, we too, our new frontier is the moon, a world of endless opportunities, waiting to be explored, inhabited, and transformed. And we are the architects, designing and constructing the infrastructure and economy that will support generations of residents, scientists, and adventurers. So, what are you waiting for? Become a pioneer of the lunar economy. Visit our website for more information and send us your greatest business idea. We wish you success on your mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both Julian and Christian for that talk. Our last speaker in this round of three, after which we will have some time for questions, is Pascal Barbier from AirLiquide, and he will be talking all things adsorbents. Pascal. Pascal? Yeah. The floor is yours.
So good afternoon, everyone. Again, really happy to be on stage again this afternoon. But this time I will present with Romain Chauveau, my colleague, development that we performed recently on adsorbent for ISRU and life support purposes. So first of all, just a quick presentation of the space activities of AirLiquide. In AirLiquide, we've been involved in space for the last 50 years, mainly in launchers with the Ariane program. And then recently, 25 years ago, we developed active cooling system called Pulse Tube, but also Turbo Brighton technologies. Currently, those products are flying, one for the launcher and one for the cryogenic systems. And we are now targeting two new segments, one for gas management system for the electric propulsion, and the one of interest for today, which is space exploration with energy management, ISRU, or life support. The common denominator of all these products is the fact that you can find a molecule inside any of these, all of these products, either in cryogenic conditions, either at ambient temperature. Regarding space exploration, we do think at AirLiquide that mastering molecule can contribute to unlocking sustainability on the moon. Because if we look at different steps to have permanent human on the moon, we see that molecules will be needed. Molecules will be needed, oxygen, hydrogen, and water, mainly, to provide energy, to provide propellant, or to provide resources for astronauts. And if we look at different business cases or models, we know that in 2030, around 100 tons of oxygen and hydrogen can be needed for lunar transportation. And in 2040, it will be around 20 tons of oxygen or water that could be needed for astronauts. So it represents a huge need in the coming years for such molecules. But now, if we keep accessing space as we are doing currently, it means that we will have to bring all that molecules to the moon. Which, with a rough calculation, if we want to bring 100 tons of oxygen, hydrogen, or water to the moon, we need around something like 10 Ariane 5 per year. So that's a good business for Ariane space, but unfortunately that's not a good business for sustainability. And so there's two ways to reduce this. Either to reduce the need of molecules by recycling the molecules, for instance, revitalizing the air, or increasing the production, the local production, by developing ISRU. And the common points of those two ways is gas purification. In both ways, we need to purify gases, purify either the air to trap CO2, for instance, or either purify the gas stream that will be generated through ISRU processes to just keep oxygen and water. So we initiated with ESRIC a joint development for developing breadboards to demonstrate performances of a purification system for oxygen and water coming from ISRU. This is ongoing. But we also, in parallel, tested new adsorbent coming from our terrestrial R&D, new adsorbent that can increase the performances of trapping efficiency of precise molecules, such as CO2 or water. And this will be presented in this talk by my colleague Romain, who is expert in adsorbent system.
Thank you, Pascal. Good afternoon. My name is Romain Chauveau, and I'm a specialist in purification techniques, mainly on adsorption. Today, we wanted to present you purification techniques innovation in relation with a novel structured adsorbents in a specific application, air revitalization. So AirLiquide is a company with high experience in gas separation techniques, mainly cryogenics, but also gas separation using membranes and adsorption. We have an extensive experience in adsorption, which is a core of most air liquide separation plants, mainly a TSA, PSA, or VSA. I'm going to explain temperature swing adsorption, pressure swing adsorption, and vacuum swing adsorption. But what is adsorption? Adsorption is a phenomena which make possible the capture of pollutants, like we have to face up in ISRU, but also in air revitalization regarding carbon dioxide. And we work on several adsorbents. This is the solids that have the specific affinity to trap the pollutant. You can have zeolites, you can have silica gels, desiccants, activated carbons, metal organic frameworks, activated alumina, and so on. So we are talking about very specific solids with a porous network that make possible the capture of pollutants. So we master this science, and we have developments and on-ground plants to produce gases as specifications. For example, we have oxygen VSA, vacuum swing adsorption, which are plants dedicated to the production of oxygen for oxycombustion in glass or steel industry at a purity close to 93%. But we can reach, if we want, 99%. This is not a problem. Another application is a front-head purification for air separation plant. We use a TSA, temperature swing adsorption, to proceed to water and carbon dioxide capture. In this way, we make possible the cooling of air to proceed to a cryogenic distillation, avoiding the problem of solidification of trace of water and carbon dioxide we removed previously. In the R&D of AirLiquide, we have a double expertise in gas in adsorption techniques. It relies on adsorbent characterization to feed process simulation. In this domain, we feed a model owing to measurements to get thermodynamics and kinetics to proceed to the design of purification systems. And we have also experimental setup in order to validate modelization. And this is what we develop the most on space application to have proof of concept. Regarding structured adsorbents, we are working on this topic for years. And the idea is to increase the efficiency of a purifier, playing on the adsorbent shape to change the packing and eventually kinetics. On the top, you have an example of monoliths. We are talking about honeycombs. We sometimes try to improve efficiency using these objects. It is made of pure zeolite 13X, and we have some problem regarding the mechanical resistance. We look at other solutions, and we have a new one which is addressing new improvements regarding the kinetics in order to handle larger flow rates with a low pressure drop. We have also increased the attrition resistance. We don't have any dust and no problem of fluidization. Owing to this solution, we can also reach better packing, meaning we are going to have more adsorbent in the same volume. And at the end, the idea is to develop a solution that will be more compact. In terms of development status, we are on level 7, meaning we have an extensive work on desiccant shaping, a successful lab demonstration, proof of concept, but also a small plant scale development. So this is a study in collaboration with CNES, and the idea was to improve the performance of air revitalization system, in which the idea is to capture carbon dioxide. We can do it using adsorption, like the 4BMS technology. It is made in 2 steps, drying air and then proceed to carbon dioxide capture, because adsorbents that have the specificity to capture carbon dioxide are hydrophilic. So in order to do this properly, we need to do the water removal before. We try to estimate the energy consumption to do this, and we have to face up a problem. Most of the energy to regenerate the adsorbent is in relation with water removal. So the idea is to propose an innovative solution to dry air, which is more compact and with less energy consumption. Regarding the contract with CNES, the idea was to test several structured adsorbents only for water removal, and the ambition was to assess performance, the efficiency of VSA, vacuum swing adsorption, to proceed to the drying. So we use a bundle of structured adsorbents we have since for years, and we test it in a typical configuration, which is what you have here. We proceed with 2 adsorbers. One is working on the production, meaning drying, water removal, capture. And another adsorber is dedicated to regeneration. And we do this under vacuum to get pure water in the exhaust gas. So just to explain, this process on ground have air recovery, a yield of mainly 50%, and this is not acceptable for a space application. So the idea is also to increase air recovery to avoid energy consumption on the blower. Regarding experimental conditions, we have some test benches dedicated to drying, with first steps to proceed to nitrogen humidification to represent air at 70% of relative humidity, an adsorber with a specific adsorbent, and a vacuum pump to be able to proceed to regeneration. So it looks like this at lab, okay? And you have here the results. So the cycle configuration of the VSA, obviously, with several steps: adsorption, blowdown, elution, repressurization, and also the results. So in blue, you have the reference sample, classical adsorbents with a given performance. We are looking for the residual amount of water we can get at the outlet of the purifier. And it is depending on the way we use some clean gas to do the regeneration. The more you can use this clean gas, the more you have a small amount of residual water so that you can proceed to carbon dioxide removal. But most of the problem is that you will lose a certain amount of air, so this is not acceptable. With these new structured adsorbents, you can see we can reach the same specification, but with a better air recovery. And in details, you have here the figures. So the on-Earth process is O2 VSA cycle. You can reach 50–55% of recovery for activated alumina and, okay, thank you. And you have, for the structured adsorbents, you can reach 85% of recovery with no dust. So this is really interesting. And structured adsorbents can be used for several applications, not only air revitalization. So regarding the conclusion on this study, with the same volume of adsorber, we are capable to using structured adsorbent to ensure very good drying performance versus classical adsorbents, with more than 10 times better residual amount of water for a given purge factor ratio, meaning air recovery. This technology could help reaching higher drying performance and to reach smaller columns, maybe 30% less in terms of volume and less energy consumption. Another aspect that is interesting is that working at lower regeneration pressure is more efficient independently of the nature of the adsorbent. But working with structured adsorbent is mainly a good solution to avoid dust formation, meaning we could work at deeper vacuum to reach acceptable air recovery. So that's it, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Romain. We have time for 10 minutes worth of questions, so I'd like to invite all the speakers of that session on to join me on the stage. Take a seat. Advenit, since you're here first, I will ask you the first question. There were plenty of questions that came in for you. But a question from Thorsten Denk, who asks, have you considered using SBSP to power a base on the moon?
Yes, so using space-based solar power station for Earth, I would say, is the core objective of Solaris. But some would argue that it makes even more sense for the moon. For example, the fact that there's no atmosphere on the moon, so there's no loss of the power that you beam from orbit. So yes, this is something that we are also considering, powering rovers, all the infrastructure on the moon. It's also in our thoughts, yes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to either Julian or Christian or both. We've had a question asking, is the MOONLIGHT program only open to, it says EU citizens, I presume it means ESA member state citizens?
So MOONLIGHT is open to all ESA partners. So it's not only governmental institutions, it's also private parties. And MOONLIGHT is going currently through its development. So how this will exactly be managed is, I think, still to be answered. But the plan behind this is that there is a standard, and it will be open to everybody who wants to use it.
Yeah. So maybe as to provide some context, we when thinking about MOONLIGHT, we in parallel pursue two streams. So there is currently a MOONLIGHT call open for the establishment of the MOONLIGHT infrastructure and providing the navigation services and communication services on the moon. And then our team looks into the demand side, the market side. What is the demand and what are the use cases and business cases for exploiting the MOONLIGHT capabilities in order to develop business cases that address any customer. And you might ask, who are those customers and what are their needs? And the truth is, we also do not have all the answers yet, and that is why we rely on bright minds like yours with business and technical expertise to exploit Moonlight. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think that's the critical question in general for space resources. Who are the customers and the providers, and what are their needs? Roman, I have a question for you. Adam Chopra asks, have you looked at other contaminants besides just CO2 and H2O? Have you looked at other contaminants other than CO2 and H2O?
Yes. Thank you. On AirLiquide plants, we have to face up volatile organic compounds on Earth due to pollution in the air. So we already have to design and to take margin regarding adsorbent design, because we have to face up like toluene and so on, propan, and many co-contaminants, plenty, more than 10. And we have other solutions like biogas treatment, in which we have to face up more than 40 impurities. So we have to tackle several layers of adsorbents. For example, we foresee 3 or 4 layers of adsorbents in the same column to be able to proceed to step-by-step removing each contaminant until you can get the valuable product. And this is also what we want to get for in-situ resource utilization, looking at the identification and the quantification of impurities, which will be numerous, and then be able to suggest a design owing to test lab and also owing to engineering in relation with adsorption, to say, okay, we have a durability of more than 10 years with process adsorption, VTSA maybe, to be able to capture at a very high specification with maybe remaining amounts of impurities below 10 ppb to protect then maybe other installations. But it will depend also of what we want to do then. For example, for oxygen concentration, if we want to use a membrane at high temperature, if we want to protect it and to have reliability and durability, it will be a challenge to validate this purification brick.
Thank you very much. I have another question of my own, if that's okay, as the chair's privilege. So what you presented from AirLiquide is a very highly advanced novel adsorbent. If we look on the other side of that, can you use regolith, either from the Moon or Mars, as an adsorbent?
I'm sorry, Katrina, I'm not sure to understand.
Can you use regolith as an adsorbent?
Oh, yes. We talked a little about zeolites, and we are talking about aluminosilicates. We can find some aluminosilicates on the Moon and also on Mars. We have zeolites on it. We are talking about natural zeolites. In terms of efficiency, we don't really know how it works. We also have natural zeolites on Earth, like kryptonite. This is not as efficient as artificial zeolite we can produce in chemistry, for example, with Arkema or BASF. So we don't really know the performance, because on Earth we work on artificial zeolites, but we know it will work, but we don't know how to design. It will take a lot of margin, and we have to characterize it.
Thank you very much. I have one final question. This one I'm coming back to Advenit. For the space-based solar power system, for the study, what was the driving factor in sizing the system? Can it start out smaller and be scaled up over time? And that comes from David Cornuta.
So the main driving factor for the size is really the efficiency of the photovoltaic systems. So the more efficient they are, the less surface you need to generate a certain power output. So if we want to make them smaller, either we lose the power output, and then to have a significant impact on the energy mix, we need to have more stations, or we make them more efficient, and then we can reduce the size. So that's the driver, not only for the size, but also the driver for technology development towards higher efficiency photovoltaic systems.
Thank you very much. Before you run away, I do actually have one more last quick question, which I think is important. It's for the MOONLIGHT project. So this comes from Bat-Chen Hertzkovich Ben Simon. What is the timeline for the MOONLIGHT project?
The current status is we have a competitive tender out for looking for the future MOONLIGHT builders and operators. So that is ongoing in the so-called upstream area, establishing the infrastructure and commercial services. So if you're interested in becoming a player there, you can apply. Then we very soon will open this call Lunar Economy applications. It will also be a competitive tender for finding business ideas using MOONLIGHT. And we hope to publish this within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully sooner than later. But really keep watching this space, and that is the call to apply for if you are an entrepreneur that wants to exploit the future MOONLIGHT capabilities.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank all our speakers in our section. You are free to leave. So we have another four speakers, 4 short talks between us, and the most important part of the day, everybody knows, is the group photo. That will be taking place in just before the next coffee break. So I will stay on the stage because our next speakers they have 5 minutes each, so we'll keep things moving to time. Our next speaker in this session is Nancy C. Wolfson. Do we have Nancy? There you are. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so Nancy C. Wolfson is from the University of Minnesota, and she will be talking about space resources synergies for sustainability and new space markets.
Okay, so let me gather my stuff here and get my reading glasses, because why not? So I want to make a quick correction. Yes, my name is Nancy. See, do we have a microphone that I can walk?
You can use these ones.
Just in case. So my name is Nancy C. Wolfson, and I'm not here with the University of Minnesota. I'm here with the International Astronautical Federation, Entrepreneurship and Investment Committee. I am the chair, and I'm also I used to be the vice chair of the Planetary Defense and NEO Committee, and now I'm the current chair of the Entrepreneurship and Investment Committee. So we created a working group on space resources and sustainability because we believe that it's a topic that is moving forward, and even when the community is still small, we are growing, and we hope that if we bring the experts and we have a synergistic approach, and if we are willing to collaborate with other entities internationally, we can actually solve all the different issues that we have in terms of moving forward with space resources and in all the different aspects, the technical and the non-technical. So let me, can we go to the next one, or should I move myself?
There's a clicker just to your right.
Okay, fantastic. And I go with the green one?
Yes.
Okay. Like I know what I'm doing, right? All right, so, and I know I only have 5 minutes, so I'm trying to be brief. I'm gonna give you very quick data of what we are doing currently with this working group. So the working group is composed of when we brought the proposal to the IAF committee, we have to get the approval of 45 members of the committee. That's how it goes, and that's how consensus works in at the IAF. So most of these members are composed of probably some of you and some of the representatives from our space agencies, such as NASA, ESA, JAXA, and many other ones, along with organizations and companies. So we're very focused on PPP, public and private partnership. But we selected 4 people that will run the current research as we move forward. And this is my team. You see Michelle from the Brazilian Space Agency. We have John from Aspire, myself, which is the one that is managing the overall aspects of this research. And we have somebody representing the SGIC, which is going to bring the young professional perspective, which is important for us, all right, as we want to have a multidisciplinary, synergistic approach to this research. Some of the aspects that this research is going to cover, and then I'll let you know how you can get involved if you care. So our approach, our objectives, as you see on that side, it says we're going to focus on the research. We are going to be actively looking in partnership with the different agencies, and we already have one partner. I'll explain this later. We're going to be working on the different aspects of legal, geopolitical, and bring the commercial aspects as well. Our approach, the space resources could be seen, I know, as a futuristic concept. However, in this working group, which is the working group on space resources and sustainability, we consider that space resources concepts are most viable path to enable sustainable space exploration activities. And it's also appropriate at the current moment when discussing space resources development, extraction, mining, and utilization to address both natural and artificial. So that's one of the main approach in this working group. The next one is going to be, as we move forward in the orbital debris, we understand this could be an excellent opportunity to strengthen international public and private partnership to deal with the technical and non-technical challenges of various aspects efficiently. We have a multidisciplinary approach, and our work will consider the scientific, the commercial, and the military aspect. So the coordination between civilian and military is another big topic when it comes to this research, and it's something that we're going to be publishing, hopefully, on that specific item as we move forward with the research. So, and I know I have 1 minute, 2 minutes. So let me go into the considerations, and we summarize. So this is the IA2, ITU, sorry, my accent, ITU. So our research is going to be working in 3 different phases. The first phase, it covers all the different components and evaluating the ITU and how the ITU could foster space resources and its different aspects, especially in coordination, communication, and legal aspects. As you can see, if you want to read what the ITU is composed by, you have one slide, and the next one is how it is organized as right now. The phase 1 is already an ongoing process, and it's going to go between 2023, which we started this year, to 2025, which is in between. We're looking to publish all the different stages of our initial research. And we're looking forward to see if this can be peer review, as we are looking to partner with you, maybe, if you have those technical expertise, those legal expertise that we're looking for, and the business expertise. The phase 2 will go from 2025 to 2027, and we're going to end in 2028 when we finally have all the data that we need to formally propose an entity that will help us internationally to coordinate all the different aspects that will model the ITU and will help us to actually solve those issues that we have currently when it comes to space resources. And do I have 1 more minute for the last one?
You can have 30 seconds.
Oh, God. Okay, this is fun. So if you want to read this is covering the basic information about our initial data, but I'm going to give you, for the ones that cannot read, because it's little, so I will just read it quickly for you. So an analysis, right now, this is the considerations that we're using for this research. Okay, an analysis of the ITU regulatory framework for space resources utilization. The ITU is currently responsible for regulating radio frequencies and orbital slots for space communications. Right now, our team is examining how the ITU regulatory framework for space communications could impact the use of space resources, particularly regarding the allocation of frequency bands for space resources, exploration, and exploitation. The next consideration is how the ITU can facilitate international cooperation. Well, we're going to be gathering and examining how this can be possible with the different countries and organizations for space resources utilization, particularly in terms of sharing data and resources for space exploration and exploitation. I have 2 left to go. The next one is going to be assessing the role in mitigating space debris and other environmental concerns. And right now, we are examining the ITU's role in mitigating space debris, which is an awful issue right now, but there are solutions, and other environmental concerns associated with space resources utilization, particularly in terms of developing guidelines and best practices for responsible space resources utilization. And last one, the analysis of the ITU's role in promoting equitable access to space resources. And right now, our team is looking into how the ITU could promote equitable access for space resources, particularly in terms of supporting the development of policies and guidelines for allocation of space resources among the different countries and organizations. If you want to know more about this research and want to join us, please email me at nancyplanetarydefense@gmail.com. And thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Our next speaker is Arthur Woods. Arthur Woods is from Astrostrom. And he will be talking about the Greater Earth Lunar Power Station.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and thank you, Advent, for mentioning our presentation, and also for your excellent overview of the promises and the challenges of space-based solar power, and also for the Solaris program, which is very exciting. Anyway, our team has been working on a feasibility study called the Greater Earth Lunar Power Station, and one of the outputs in our study is how to visualize what we're thinking about. So we're going to show you a short video about what we've been doing.
Welcome to the Greater Earth Lunar Power Station. We are going to the moon to build components for solar power satellites from lunar materials, which could help mitigate the launch bottleneck and the environmental impact of launching many solar power satellites from the surface of Earth. This is a multi-trillion euro opportunity which addresses the climate and energy crises on Earth. Can you think of a better reason to go to the moon?
Thank you. We've identified 3 key technologies to realize what you've just seen. The lunar space elevator, which could be built with existing materials today. The monograin layer solar cells, which is the technology for solar cells on the moon. And we have Ravi here and Catherine here, and they have an excellent poster about this, poster number 24, so please visit them for more information. And also, we're interested in lunar basalt fiber, which could be used for different structural applications. And I mentioned in the first video that net zero requires electrification of transport, heating, and industry. And Europe's net zero energy transition is a €5 trillion opportunity. This is what Bloomberg published just last year. And what you saw in the video, we think we could realize for 99 billion or less. And this is just 2% of that transition budget. So thank you very much for your attention. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Arthur, for that inspiring video and talk. Our next speaker in this session is Ben Bussey from Intuitive Machines. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you. Great. Maybe. For those of you planning a nap, I have 3 slides, so you need to crack on. There we go. Right. Great. So Intuitive Machines, we are a lunar services company. So we have the Nova C lander that can go anywhere on the moon and drop off up to about 130 kilograms. We're teamed with our partner Lunar Outpost, who have a presence here in Luxembourg, for rover services. We've developed a micronova, which is a hopper that gets delivered by the main lander and can fly 8 kilograms of payload up to about 25 kilometers. And we also have the ability to drop off satellites into lunar orbit. And I'm mainly going to talk about the latter. So we are part of the CLIPS catalog, NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program. And we have 3 CLIPS landers going in within the next 2 years. And I think a key takeaway for this group is if you look at the payloads, it is a mixture of NASA and commercial. And we've heard a lot today about this idea of there being a market. And what is interesting is CLIPS has shown that there is a non-governmental market for payloads to fly to the lunar surface. Also of particular interest to this group is our second mission, IM2, which will launch at the end of this year. This will it will fly the Prime 1, which is a Space Resources drill and mass spectrometer payload from NASA. It will be our first flight of the Nova hopper, and it will also drop off the first of our own relay satellites. And it's Intuitive Machines' plan to drop off our own communication relay satellite every mission thereafter. But the main reason I'm here is the fact that we can deliver things into a nice mapping orbit of roughly 100 kilometers, combined with the fact that, as we've heard, there will be relay in orbit, has got us thinking about what could one do with a small satellite around the moon. Essentially, can we do a data by orbiter where we get the data sets that are needed by multiple stakeholders to essentially initiate a commercial cislunar remote sensing market? For this audience, the reason I'm here is really the what. I mean, the what is, what data do you people sitting here, what is the data that you are lacking that if it existed, it would help you fly the things you want to fly to demonstrate ISRU, which is important. And I would argue there are really 2 parts to that. There's mapping of the resources itself, but there's also acquiring the next level of data in order to help surface operations. So that very high resolution imagery, as well as I think topography at the lander and rover scale, so that if you're flying to the moon with small rovers, you can plan ahead during the relatively short lunar day exactly where you're going to go and what you're going to do. So I hope to talk to many of you here to listen to what data sets it is that you would like acquired. Thank you.
Thank you for that very efficient talk, Ben. Our next and final speaker in this round of 4 is Claudio Rossi from the University Politechnica de Madrid. You've all been very quiet on the questions. We should have time for a couple of questions, so please put them in the web app if you have questions you'd like to ask any of our 4 speakers. Thank you very much, Claudio.
Okay, so thank you very much. ROBOMINERS is an H2020 project which was set up to address the call of new solutions for sustainable production of raw materials. It's a 4-year project, then extended to 45 months due to the COVID situation. It's a 7.4 million euros involving, 14 partners from 11 countries. We have geoscientific SMEs, we have academics, of course, both from mining and robotics. We have 2 NGOs and 3 governmental agencies. So what we are supposed to do? To design, test, and develop technologies for a robotic miner, for an autonomous miner, capable of performing selective mining, which means precise mining, basically. We target small or difficult to reach deposits, like ultra-depth, for instance, which are unreachable by humans, and where the communications with the robot are very limited or even null. So this is the overall concept of the project. Robot parts, the module of the robot will be sent down the borehole or any other means to the operation location. They would self-assemble to form a fully functional robot, and then using special sensors and special production tools, they would mine the ore, working in a slurry, and that would be pumped out with standard technology. And because they are modular, they can reconfigure on the job, which means that there's some failure or some unforeseen situation, they can change the physical configuration, adding more or changing modules. Okay, so what have we done in this almost 4 years of project? We've been developing close to mid-range mineralogical sensors. These sensors can analyze in real time the production, the material that we're producing. We are testing different technologies. We developed geophysical sensors that let us literally see through the rock. We can penetrate the order of tens of centimeters inside the rock to see what's inside, what's behind the face, and to decide what is the good stuff to mine. All this information is fed together with prior information to geological models that can be used both by the robot and by a human operator to make decisions and to plan the operations. We've been developing fairly innovative perception technology for navigation, for robot navigation. Since we work in slurry or anyway in a very dusty situation, we developed these whiskers, these touch-based sensors that let us make a 3D mapping of the environment that can be used then for path planning and for robot navigation without the need of standard technologies like cameras, lasers, and this kind of stuff. So we can literally see in the darkness. We've been designing and testing different production tools. This is the latest development, so we are going to actually drill the rock. We've been playing also with the concept of reconfiguration with these small-scale prototypes and with also visual prototypes to play with the different configuration and to play with self-reconfigurations. We've been working also on the very high-level AI of the system. So we want the system to be capable of reasoning about itself. This is called self-awareness. So the system, since it is in the long term, we see it like a very autonomous system, as I told you, with no communication with humans. So this system can be capable of working and reasoning about itself. So which is my mission? Which functionalities do I have? which capabilities do I need, and how can I change? I can change my configuration, both software and hardware, in order to comply with the mission that I have, or at all. And the last thing we are doing is we're finalizing the construction on a heavy-duty platform. This is a very big stuff. So each module will be on the order of 1 ton of weight, approximately 1 meter, and hydraulically actuated. And we're also analyzing the big picture, so how this technology would impact the overall mining system. So I guess it is easy for you to see that practically all the things that we are doing are in a straightforward manner transferable to space. Okay? So we can rethink about the initial concept in this way, where robot parts or robot modules are sent not underground, but in space, in some celestial body. They will self-assemble to form a fully functional robot with no incineration or very limited human intervention. They would mine the ore, and the material will be used in situ for ISRU. And so this is the concept that we want to develop, and that's the reason we are here today. So if you have any comment or any question on the technical side or on the concept, we will be happy to listen from you. So visit our booth. It's just behind the corner. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Claudio, we have about 5 minutes for questions, so if I could invite our speakers to join me on the stage. You've been very quiet on the app, but has anybody got a question, a burning question they would like to ask at the microphone in the center of the room? So we have Nancy, Arthur, Ben, and Claudio on the stage. Anybody got any questions? Feeling brave enough to ask? If not, I will ask Ben, I will ask you a question. The question you're asking for intuitive machines about what measurements do we need is it's the critical question. And then we look at Claudio, and he has his ROBOMINER, which has instrumentation on it as well. So how much do you, as a satellite, with your small satellites, with instruments, then talk to the people who also provide on the ground truth measurements and instrumentation to try and work out where the gaps are?
I think we've talked more with trying to understand what the planetary ISRU needs are. So this morning already has been extremely interesting to think about what data sets and also at what resolution do you need it to be useful, because you want to be good enough, but at some level you don't want to be you don't want to over make things any harder than they are already. So I'd say perhaps we should be thinking about that more, but we've been concentrating more on our understanding of what we think would help the planetary lunar ISRU.
Thank you very much. Actually, a question has come in for you, Claudio, from Jarrett Dillenberger. He says, what is the resolution of your detection system? How accurately can you pinpoint the location of underground resources?
Yeah, you mean the whiskers?
It says the detection system. So I guess maybe the resolution of the instrumentation could be the whiskers.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I think that many of the techniques that we use have been already used, especially in space. I'm sure LIBS and Raman have been used. So I'm not the expert of the field. So I hope if the question is from the stage, it's better to ask to my colleagues, to Christian, who is actually the mind behind this kind of sensors. And regarding the whiskers, if the question goes in that direction, we are particularly happy with this technique because I cannot give you the number, but the resolution we have is more than enough for robot navigation. That's the purpose of their purpose, basically.
I actually have another question that's come in for you as well from Abhimanyu Shanbag. For ROBOMINERS, what sort of systems are needed to maintain and troubleshoot these robots on the moon? What sort of systems are needed to maintain and troubleshoot? So how do you work with these systems if they're on the moon?
Well, the scenario that we have in mind is that you cannot troubleshoot. I mean, you cannot do any intervention in the robot. That's why we are working on their intelligent level. So the robot should be capable of understanding that particular system is not working or is not working properly, and which other solution it has to comply with the mission or to modify the mission from itself. That's the whole purpose of the thing.
Thank you very much. For Nancy, I have a question about how people can engage with your research program. You say your program with the IAF on the role of the ITU in space resources is focusing on sustainability and issues to do with space debris and so on. If people are interested, how can they engage with your research program?
Well, the best way to engage is to start with contacting me at nancy@planetaridefense@gmail.com. And the second way to engage in this is bring your expertise and bring forward the challenges that you have in your own area of operations when it comes to space resources. Because at the end of the day, we're going to need each other when it comes to this research. We're going to be tackling all those different areas that are non-technical for you to continue your operations smoothly as we all, as a community, move forward. So bring those questions, bring those challenges. We're ready to tackle those. We have an amazing team behind us. And as I said, each aspect of this research will be peer reviewed by the 45 members of our committee, which is composed by most of the space agencies that we have. So, and we have an amazing public and private partnership in winning the committee. So, yes, that's the best way. Challenge us, and we're ready to move forward with the data. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. And finally, before I hand back to Lisa for the all-important instructions for the photograph, Arthur, you showed a genuinely inspirational video of what the future might look like. How far away, for Astrostrom, how far away are we from this?
Well, actually very far away from a lot of things, but it takes commitment. And I mean, one of the biggest issues facing humanity is the climate issue and the energy issue. So we, the space community, offers a potential solution or a part of the solution, but it takes a dedicated effort, a multinational effort in order to achieve that. So we have a plan. We have a step-by-step plan that could go, 10 years, and we would have maybe the necessary funding that I mentioned up here. And then with that, you could do a lot. So just as a personal experience, I grew up in the Apollo program. I lived at Merritt Island, Florida, Cape Canaveral. That was in my youth. I saw it happen. My father was there. He made liquid oxygen for Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. And we went from 0 to the moon in 9 years. And that was a global, a national program, hundreds of thousands of people sharing a vision, and it happened. So we have crises today that could be really addressed with space technologies. It just takes commitment and vision and a lot of effort.
Thank you very much. I think that's an excellent place to wrap up. I would like to thank all of our 4 speakers in that session. In fact, all 7 talks in that session. And I will hand back to Lisa for instructions. Thank you, Lisa.